Welcome to the Yungang Grottoes, one of China's greatest treasures and one of the most remarkable collections of Buddhist art anywhere in the world. Today we're exploring a site that has stood for more than 1,500 years, carved directly into the sandstone cliffs outside the city of Datong in northern China. Stretching for almost a mile along the rock face, the Yungang Grottoes contain more than 250 caves and niches, housing over 50,000 Buddhist statues. From tiny figures just a few centimetres high to colossal Buddhas towering over visitors, this extraordinary complex offers a fascinating glimpse into the spread of Buddhism across China and the power of an ancient empire. As we begin our walk, imagine this landscape during the 5th century. The region was ruled by the Northern Wei Dynasty, a powerful kingdom established by the Tuoba people, who had origins among the nomadic tribes of northern Asia. At this time, China was divided between competing kingdoms, and the Northern Wei rulers were eager to strengthen their authority and legitimacy. One way they did this was by embracing Buddhism, a religion that had travelled along the Silk Road from India and Central Asia. The Yungang Grottoes became one of the grandest expressions of that faith. Construction began around the year 460 AD under the guidance of a Buddhist monk named Tan Yao. His vision was ambitious, to create monumental cave temples that would honour Buddhism while also celebrating the power and piety of the Northern Wei emperors. Thousands of artisans, sculptors, labourers and craftsmen were employed here. Working with simple hand tools, they transformed a sandstone cliff into a vast sacred complex, unlike anything seen before in China. As we approach the first caves, it's difficult not to be overwhelmed by the scale of the achievement. The earliest caves contain enormous seated Buddhas, some standing more than 13 metres tall. Their faces remain calm and serene despite centuries of weathering, warfare and political upheaval. These statues were more than religious symbols. Many scholars believe they were also intended to represent the emperors themselves, blending spiritual authority with imperial power. Notice how the artistic style differs from later Chinese Buddhist sculpture. The faces often appear elongated, the nose is prominent, and the robes display influences from Central Asia and India. These features reveal the international nature of Buddhism during this period and demonstrate how ideas, beliefs and artistic traditions travelled across continents along the Silk Road. The Yungang Grottoes stand as a stone record of cultural exchange. As we continue along the cliff face, the sheer density of carvings becomes astonishing. Every available surface seems covered with figures. Buddhas, bodhisattvas, heavenly musicians, guardians, monks and donors emerge from the stone in intricate detail. Some caves contain thousands of miniature statues arranged in repeating patterns that seem almost endless. Originally, many of these sculptures were brightly painted. Although much of the colour has disappeared over the centuries, traces of pigments still survive, offering tantalising hints of how vibrant and spectacular these caves once appeared. Imagine entering these chambers when they were newly completed. The statues would have glowed with vivid reds, blues, greens and golds, illuminated by flickering oil lamps and filled with the scent of incense. For worshippers arriving here 15 centuries ago, the experience must have felt otherworldly. One of the most famous sections of the site is known as the 5 Caves of Tan Yao. These caves contain some of the largest and most important statues in the entire complex. Each cave was carefully planned and carved according to sophisticated religious symbolism. The giant Buddhas within them represent different aspects of Buddhist teaching, while simultaneously reflecting the authority of the Northern Way state. Standing beneath these towering figures today, visitors often find themselves feeling remarkably small. The scale was intentional. The creators wanted worshippers to experience awe and humility in the presence of the divine. Yet despite their immense size, the sculptures display an extraordinary level of craftsmanship. Look closely, and you'll find delicate jewellery, flowing drapery, intricate hairstyles, and finely carved facial expressions that have survived for more than a millennium. As the Northern Wei dynasty grew stronger, the capital was eventually moved from Datong to Luoyang in the year 494. This decision had a significant impact on Yungang. Although work continued for a time, imperial attention gradually shifted elsewhere. New cave temple projects emerged closer to the new capital, including the famous Yungang Grottoes. Even so, the Yungang Grottoes remained an important religious destination for centuries. Pilgrims continued to visit, monks continued to worship, and successive dynasties carried out repairs and restoration work. The site survived periods of prosperity and periods of decline. It endured invasions, political turmoil, natural erosion, and the passage of time itself. That it survives at all is something of a miracle. As we walk further along the grottos, notice how some caves appear remarkably well preserved, while others show obvious signs of damage. The soft sandstone that made carving easier also left the sculptures vulnerable to weathering. Wind, rain, temperature changes, and centuries of exposure gradually wore away fine details. Human activity also took its toll. Various conflicts and periods of instability led to damage and neglect. Recognizing the site's immense importance, extensive conservation efforts have been undertaken in modern times to preserve the grottos for future generations. Today, the Yungang Grottoes are protected as a UNESCO World Heritage Site. The designation, awarded in 2001, recognizes their outstanding significance to world history and culture. UNESCO describes the grottos as a masterpiece of early Chinese Buddhist cave art and an exceptional example of cultural exchange between China and the wider world. Walking here today, it's easy to understand why. Few places illustrate the meeting of different civilizations quite so vividly. Indian religious ideas, Central Asian artistic influences, and Chinese craftsmanship all combine within these cliffs to create something entirely unique. As our journey approaches its end, take a final moment to appreciate the scale of what surrounds us. More than 50,000 sculptures, hundreds of caves, 15 centuries of history carved directly into stone. The Yungang Grottoes are far more than an archaeological site. They are a monument to faith, creativity, ambition, and cultural connection. They remind us that great ideas often travel vast distances, crossing borders and bringing people together in unexpected ways. Long after the Northern Wei emperors vanished into history, the statues they commissioned continue to watch silently over visitors from around the world. Their faces remain calm, their message endures, and their story continues to inspire all who come here. Thank you for joining me on this walk through the Yungang Grottoes in Datong. If you've enjoyed exploring this extraordinary UNESCO World Heritage Site, please consider liking the video, subscribing to the channel, and joining me on the next journey as we uncover more fascinating places from around the world. Until next time, thanks for watching.